What's happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And yesterday at Stamford Bridge, unfortunately for myself and George, it finished Chelsea 0, Manchester City 1. We were both at the game. It was a great day out. Obviously, everything was great apart from the result. George, before we get into the game, which quite frankly wasn't a great performance from Chelsea at all, we were quite surprised with the team news breaking to see that three in midfield staying from the second half at Tottenham, and a two-man strike force of Werner and Lukaku. And we were also surprised with no Thiago Silva. Actually, it transpired that after the game, Tuchel in the presser saying that he was going to start, but he'd taken a little bit of a knock in training, so they didn't risk it. But ultimately, we did actually see him with Reece James picking up an injury. I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but looking back on the game, that three in the middle was a mistake from Tuchel. He got it wrong ultimately. Were you surprised with that three in the middle to start with?
Yeah, I was surprised, but I think Thomas Tuchel's probably trying to catch City off guard again and not go predictable, which sometimes backfires. I mean, we saw it with Pep actually in the Champions League final, where he tried to throw a curveball and it didn't work out. I mean, as you said, hindsight's a wonderful thing. We can look back at it and criticise it, but so far, Thomas Tuchel, whatever tactics or whatever lineup he's put out, seems to be the best team that's capable of winning the match. So despite being slightly surprised by the lineup, I still felt we had enough in the team selection to get something, at least a point. But yeah, the team selection, I think we've got a really good, strong group of players. I think anyone who comes in can do a job. So yeah, I think in hindsight, like you said, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but ultimately it was a bit of a mistake.
It definitely was. And I think Tuchel was honest enough after the game to say, we win together, we lose together, and he'll ask questions on himself. I think that's an acceptance that he did get it wrong. But George, the first half, we were obviously behind the goal that Manchester City were attacking. We were struggling in that first half. Every time we seemed to be playing it out from the back. It was very nervy. Their press was unreal, causing us all sorts of problems. Are you surprised that we didn't go in a goal down at the break, considering how up against it we were?
Yeah, but it was classic Manchester City versus Chelsea, wasn't it? Chelsea dogged defending, last ditch, very, very tight unit at the back. And then City, as you'd expect, all the possession, pinging it around, switching the play left to right, nice intricate passing in and around the box. I think you look back at it, certainly the first half, they didn't really create that much, despite all the possession. I mean, I can't even remember much of the first half in terms of what we had. You could probably put it in an edited video of about 2 minutes of us actually having the ball, which isn't good enough. I mean, eventually, if you're going to do that, you have to be purposeful when you get the ball. And we really struggled with their press to kind of come up with any ideas to get out. And when you play against high quality opposition like Manchester City, everyone's got to be at least 9 out, if not 10 out of 10 to get something. And unfortunately yesterday, I think there were just a few passengers who, I wouldn't necessarily say it was their fault. There was no one's fault. I just think that we were slightly off it, and you put your shoe on the other foot, and Manchester City were actually very much at it yesterday. So you've got to hand it to Manchester City for coming to Stamford Bridge and actually going for it. And you've got to look at Chelsea and probably think that the games that we've won against Manchester City before, we've had a bit of confidence, and it just, I don't feel as if the players believed that we were going to get something or win that match for some reason. Just looked out of ideas.
Yeah, I think that's exactly summed it up very well, mate. I think we lacked confidence. I'm not sure we approached this game, feeling that we could actually win and get something out of it. We didn't approach it with our usual tenacity, usual sort of, good build-up play, linking some nice moves together. Two things here, mate. Are you surprised at how isolated Lukaku was? That two with Werner. I know it's too early to write it off, but given this performance that we saw from it, it was really poor. Admittedly, there was no service, there was nothing, but Werner was too far away from me, wasn't there for the knockdowns, and then every time Werner got the ball and was running, he'd almost sort of like stop his run at like the crucial moment. Just a quick word on that front too. It just didn't happen, did it?
I mean, there were moments where we did get in behind, and Werner had a couple down the channel where he took on the fullback, and Lukaku did get some success with some knockdowns. But like you said, I think the chemistry between the two just wasn't there. And because we lacked the belief to go forward, I think when we got into areas that were quite dangerous, we just didn't have the options. And, as you pointed out in the game, mate, there was just no width in the side at all. So, even if Lukaku's got the ball, I mean, where can he go but backwards, really, and knock it down? And then by then, City have got back their shape, and it's then playing back to goal. So, but, if you look at it the other way, he did put the ball in the net. Yes, it was disallowed, but he got another chance and he put it away. It's one of those, isn't it? And you've not just got to look at Lukaku's performance, which was quite poor, but then you've got to look at Diaz, Laporte. I mean, they were absolute rocks at the back.
Yeah.
I thought the back four for City was superb. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you realise how good Diaz is until you actually see him like up close in person. Him and Laporte, I mean, obviously they were missing Stones. I presume Stones probably would have played, but Diaz was unbelievable yesterday. He marshalled Lukaku really well. And yes, Lukaku wasn't great, and there'll be, people out there saying, "Oh, it's another poor performance from Lukaku against a big opposition." But in fairness, you're only as good as the service you get. He was very isolated up there. Are you surprised, George, that we didn't try more long balls from Mendy into Lukaku, just try and hit him and try and get some opportunities that way? Because we seem to play short every time, and with the City press, we seem to cause ourselves a lot of issues, particularly giving the ball away inside our half from goal kicks.
Definitely, and I think we saw it very early on in the stadium that a lot of people were getting agitated, that we were kept trying to play out the back when the press was on, because we were struggling to get outside of our half, really. Some loose balls. I mean, the distribution yesterday was poor from the midfield. Loose balls, defenders just trying to wrong options all the time. But again, you've got to give credit to Manchester City for their press, but we knew that was what they were going to do. So I think when you've got a big forward like Lukaku, I find, and the pace of Werner, I do find it odd that we didn't try and go a bit long sometimes, because if you get a knockdown or he does manage to flick one on and Werner gets in behind, we could cause all sorts of problems. And we didn't see it. Maybe one or two that were cleared from Mendy, but other than that, nothing from goal kicks. It was all very short. So if it works like it did in the Champions League final, where we managed to play it out and we get a break, amazing. But yesterday just showed that if it doesn't work and you're not on it, you get punished.
I have to say, I'm really not a fan of that three in the middle. I think for certain situations, like if you're trying to see out a big game away from home where you're one up, by all means, go for it. Obviously, we gave it a go against Spurs, and it worked out really well for us. But I think Spurs are a completely different level of opposition compared to Manchester City. I just think if you're going to do that, one of those midfield players has got to be attack-minded. I mean, so many times we saw the furthest man forward was Kante, and we get Kante sort of receiving it down like on the edge of the box in an attacking position. And he's an unbelievable player, but that is not where you want N'Golo Kante on the pitch. And every time we got in a good position, it was like one of those midfield players ending up on the ball. And they're all good players in their own right, but they don't score goals. They're not the kind of players that make something happen in the attacking sense. So if Tuchel is to go with that again at some point, if we're going to start a game like that, one of those players has got to be forward thinking. Do you think Mason Mount was a big miss yesterday?
Yeah, and it's been one of our criticisms. I think if there's one thing that we'd say about Chelsea is that we're very much a team that we play, a lot of games where we're in control. And when we're playing Manchester City, where we know that we're not going to have much of the ball, we're kind of hoping for one or two chances, and that's about it. I mean, we do play on the back foot, and it's difficult to get those creative players in the game, but we do lack them. I think in the front three, we do have them, but we were a bit limited for choices. He's not going to play Saul because of the trust element in a big game like that at the moment. Pulisic still out, Mount out, Hakim Ziyech coming back from an injury. So really, what options did we have to play there? And, if we come away with a 0-0 yesterday, which could have been possible, despite the dominant City show, they didn't really create that much. People would probably given Tuchel another pat on the back and say, job well done. But I think that's one area where Chelsea probably, if we need a goal and what where does it come from in terms of the attacking in the middle of the park? I'm not sure. You look at City side, you could say any of those midfield players could score a goal.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at our midfield three yesterday, and you wouldn't put your house on any of those three scoring at all, or even getting in a position to score. We defended very well yesterday, and you say we could have got the 0-0. We definitely could have done. One slightly poor bit of defending ultimately led to the goal. I thought we could have done a lot better defending that initial set piece, but then obviously it gets through to Gabriel Jesus and takes a few ricochets in the box and ultimately ends up in the back of the net. You disappointed? Do you think we could have defended that a little bit better? Or, I mean, again, on the balance of play, I think they did fully deserve a goal, but it was just a little bit fortunate how it went in.
Yeah, and I think it was coming. We were giving them far too much respect in those final areas. They were getting the ball out wide a lot. They were starting to win corners, and it was just far. I mean, Jack Grealish caused all sorts of problems down the left-hand side yesterday. And yet, like you said, mate, the goal was coming. It was just a question of when. A bit fortuitous. I mean, we had a similar effort from Kovacic, I think, that came off a wicked deflection, could have gone in. On another day, maybe we get the luck as well. But yeah, they deserved it. They're champions for a reason. We've got to respect that. And I think losing, even though it's at home and it's disappointing to lose, it's early doors. And you look at the table and you think, in hindsight, it's no shame to lose to the champions 1-0 in any circumstance. And it's perfect to say that we win together and we lose together, and we've got bigger battles to come. And disappointing, but. Yeah.
No, I'd agree. There's no shame in losing to them. They were outstanding yesterday. One big plus though for Chelsea was following up from his great performance in midweek in the cup against Aston Villa. When Ruben Loftus-Cheek came on, and we went obviously we went back to the 3-4-3, which has served us so well. He looks really bright. Looked like he was making things happen. Looked like he's kind of almost getting back to some of his best form, and he can really kind of now start pushing to feature a bit more regularly. How impressed were you with his cameo? Because every time he picked up the ball, he was driving at the defence. But for a guy with a big physique, he's really good on the ball. I thought he was very impressive in that 20-minute cameo.
Yeah, he changed it for us. He gave us that belief that we could go on, and he's one of those players that's so forward thinking. Every time he had the ball, like you said, on the turn, he was looking to go forwards, not back. And he's got so many great attributes, being so big, so physical. I don't think City could really deal with him. He came on with a point to prove. He wants to break into that side, but he's the kind of player that we need. We need someone who's a bit electric, I think yesterday was just too negative. I think everyone was playing a bit safe. And when we got into areas where we had a bit of space, we weren't even sure what to do. And a lot of times that we had attacking areas, we then went all the way back to the goalkeeper. And he's a type of player that we could do with. But again, it's the overall game whether Tuchel trusts him in when we don't have the ball and all the rest of it, whether, that remains to be seen. But he was seriously impressive yesterday.
Yeah, he's definitely different to the other central midfield options we've got. He's one that can actually get on the ball and make something happen. He might not be as good defensively, but his overall game, I'd probably say, is a lot more rounded than the other three options we've got. But, ultimately it ended in disappointment for us yesterday with a 1-0 defeat to Manchester City. Having said that, though, a bit of perspective needs to be put in place. Having played Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool and City, 3 of those away from home in the first 6 games, there'll only be a point off the top of the table. I think all Chelsea fans would have taken that. So, we move on to Juventus away on Wednesday night before the international break, and then we begin a set of fixtures that are a lot more kinder to us on paper. So, as always, guys, keep the faith. We will be back. That's just myself and George's thoughts. Make sure you smash a like on the video. If you're new around here, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next one, guys.